in the book of Psalms are 15 psalms that are called the Psalms of Ascent. And they begin in 120 and go to 134. We're going to look at 120. Bizarre. If you were going to talk about worship, if you were going to encourage someone in worship or cause them to meditate about worship or prepare their heart for worship, where would you start? Maybe you would start with God and who He is and His majesty and His glory. Maybe you would start with His provisions and what He's done. Maybe you would start with opulence of heaven, or maybe you would talk about how we are to sing His praises or something. It's not where this psalmist starts. The very first psalm out of the chute is all about trouble and problems and struggles. We don't. Now, life is tough. Life is hard. And it's full of its miseries and its heartaches and its struggles. And the beginning of worship is really in an honesty of where we are and where we're at and what we're going to do. See, all too often we buy into the I'm okay, you're okay philosophy. We put on our best clothes, we put on our best face, and we walk in and we act like everything's just fine. And we smile, and if someone says, how are you doing? I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm good, I'm good. And the truth of the matter is, in all our lives, there's struggles and problems and heartaches and difficulties and things we're dealing with. And the beginning of real worship is to drop a veneer and to say, I need God because life is not okay. It's been about 40 years, 45 years that we've been with Thomas Harris, and I'm okay and you're okay, and the world's not gotten better. We haven't progressed. It hadn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. Our problems have magnified themselves. The struggles that Harris was dealing with in the late 60s, they're minor compared to what we deal with today. This I'm okay, you're okay hadn't worked. The psalmist has a whole new answer. Let's start with I'm not okay. In fact, the word here for trouble is a distress, but it's a type of internal distress. It's an internal battle going on inside an individual. The word for the deceitful tongue is literally the words that are shot out of the mouth. And so he says, here's where my problem comes from. It comes from within and it comes from without. But it all goes back to things I've been told that aren't true. I've been lied to. I've been deceived. I've been told something that's just not true. Now, every one of us probably has had somebody lie to us at some point or another. Somebody's told us something and later on we found out it wasn't true. Sometimes those lies are small and inconsequential and we can just kind of brush them off and go on. Sometimes they kind of hurt us and for a little while we struggle with them, and sometimes they become deeply embedded in us and they cause a bitterness and a pain that goes on and on and on. Maybe it was something that your mother or your father told you. Maybe it was something that some trusted leader told you. Maybe it was something like that. I remember and the greatest promise we've ever gotten is from the world, that has promised that if we'll play their game by their rules and do what they want, we'll get the almighty promise of the life we want. And time again, we go back to the same place, listen to the same lies, end up disappointed and hurt again, only to have the world say, I'm sorry, we were wrong. Here's the new story. Now try this, and then we try that again. You live in the world long enough and you're going to get deceived. The world's going to promise you something and never fulfill on the promise, and after a while it leaves you empty and void and hurting and wounded, and you begin to wonder, is there any purpose to this world? Is there any purpose to my life? Why am I here, and what does it matter? And you begin to wrestle with all that. Because you're not satisfied. Because the lie hadn't fulfilled. The lie hadn't satisfied like that. He says here also that the sharp arrows of the warrior with the burning coals of the broom tree. In the King James, it's juniper. That's what it is. It's a juniper tree. Could be called a broom tree or a juniper tree. Either one works. The juniper tree was an interesting thing for the Hebrews. It was actually the tree they chose if they were going to try to stoke fires. It seems that the juniper wood held red-hot coals longer than anything else. Thus, they would get the juniper tree burning, and then after it burned, you could take tongs or a metal shovel and grab the coals and carry it somewhere else and put it on another pile of wood and blow on it and get another fire going. because it held its heat and the coals longer than anything. Here's what the psalmist says. Their words are like arrows that have that red-hot coal that just pierces and burns and won't go out. That's what I deal with. That's my pain. Here's the first words of worship on the Psalm of Ascent. I need help. I'm hurt. I'm wounded. I'm disillusioned. I'm disappointed. I'm empty. I'm struggling here. I'm fighting within to try to hang on to this, and I'm getting assaulted from without, and I'm having a hard time here. I really need some help. I'm not okay. Verse 5, he says this, woe is me, I sojourn in Meshech, I dwell among the tents of Kedar. Well, that just sounds poetic to us. What's that mean? Well, we don't know Meshech and Kedar. What is it? Meshech is a land that is far north in the area of southern Russia. And the Kedar people were nomadic barbarians, very violent, very rough people, but they never had a home. They just set up tents for a while, lived there a while. When they caused enough trouble, they couldn't stay. They collapsed their tents, went somewhere else, and started the whole process over again. Here's what he's saying. Here's what he's literally saying. I am thousands and thousands of miles away from Jerusalem. I dwell among people whose only pleasure is causing me pain, and I'm never going to be settled. I'm never going to find a home. It's never going to change. It's his depression that has kicked in. It's his depression that says, oh my goodness, not only is it bad, not only am I hurt, not only am I wounded, I don't think it's ever going to get any better. I think this is my fate in life. This is my destiny in life. I'm going to dwell in this place. I'm going to live among these people. I'm constantly going to be like this. Have you ever reached a point where you just got hurt so much that hope just oozed out? And you begin to have this thought, is it ever going to get better? Am I ever going to get out of here? Is it ever going to change? I begin to think, no, I want to be like this. The psalmist here is being very honest about some hurts and some pains and some struggles because he's going to the place where he can finally get the help he needs. Too long I've just accepted this as the way it's got to be, but I'm ready to make a change. I'm ready to see something change, and I'm calling for a decision that can change my life. What does he do? It only appears twice in the whole Psalms. He only uses it very, very sparingly, but twice the word Lord appears, and in both times it's an emphatic crying out. In verse 1 he says, I cried to the Lord. In verse 2 he says, deliver my soul. The crying out is the cry of anguish and pain. It is deep. It is guttural. It is not a, oh God, if you could help me. It is the cry of somebody in anguish and pain. Deliver me is someone who recognizes I must be rescued or I'm going to die here. This is the individual who says, I've been hurt. I'm in the midst of depression. It's struggled. Oh God, I need you. And if you don't save me, nobody else will. I'm telling you, I've exhausted every hope I got. I've exhausted every channel I've got. I've tried everything I know, and none of it's worked. And all I know is it just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting darker. I just wonder, am I ever going to get out of this? God, if you don't come through, nobody will. And that's a desperate heart. And we're called to be desperate for God. That's the beginning of worship. Is to reach the point to say, the world has nothing to offer me. I'm calling to God. I'm seeking Him. I'm looking for Him more than anything else. But those that really worship God come here because they know this. I'm not okay. And I'm coming to the only one who can take care of the problem. I need Him. See, here's the thing about worship. Worship changes you. Worship really changes you. Worship is more than exhilarating songs that give us little tingly feelings. Worship is more than stirring sermons that make us think and Worship is really about encountering a living God and Him changing you. And the beginning of that is us saying we need to be changed. We want to be changed. We don't want the world life we got anymore. We don't want to keep this. We don't want to hang on to this. Look at it. It's nothing but deception. It's nothing but this depression. It's not going to get me. I don't want this anymore. I want something different. God, you're going to have to give me something different. Now change me. Change my world. Change my circumstances. Change my character. Change something within me or out of me. But I'm telling you, there's this battle raging on the inside. I need you to take care of that. I'm telling you, I'm being assaulted from outside. I need you to take care of that. I'm getting wounded and hurt here, and I need you to heal those wounds. I'm falling into the pits of depression, and I need you to breathe some hope and some vision here. I'm telling you, I need you, because if you don't come through, I got nowhere else to go.